All right. Hey, everybody, welcome to One More Round. Today I'm excited. I have Benjamin Brown, Ben Brown, I think is what you like to be called, right?
Either way.
But what's cool about this is we reconnected after many years. Like we knew each other for a short period of time, and about, I guess, 3 weeks ago, a month, there was an event that I was at that a good friend of mine, Wendy Hernandez, some of you guys have watched the podcast. She's a real high-end attorney in the family space, and she invited me to this cybersecurity thing. Well, there was a booth for body systems, and I just went. I always like to visit the booths and see local entrepreneurs and stuff. And Ben's wife, Christina, was there, and she was talking. I was telling a little bit about my story, and you guys, if you watch this, you know my story, the heart transplant and all that. And she was just like, gives me this basket, like, you get the giveaway. I'm like, okay. And I start looking through it, and I see BSL Nutrition, and I'm like, I know that brand. And then I was like, okay, I remember Ben, and I didn't see you at the time. It wasn't until
I had just left.
Yeah, I had just, we were talking and all this stuff, and she told me about you, and I'm like, okay. And then I saw you walk by, because you were like getting stuff and taking it to the car, and I'm like, wow, crazy. So that's how we reconnected. But he's got an amazing story, been in the fitness world for a long time. But today we're going to dive into not only what he does, but some of his story, some of the things he's overcome, what's going on in today's world, what should we be eating, how should we be exercising, and probably a whole bunch of other stuff. So welcome.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me. It's awesome to be reconnected. It's awesome to have you as part of our community. It's incredible to hear your story and what you've overcome, and so I'm just honored to be here.
Yeah, man. So it was actually cool because number one, I've worked out by myself pretty much my entire career. I had a few personal training sessions when I was 16 years old, and that was something that my mom bought me. No, I was younger than that. I was 13. And it was when I lived in Safford, and it was great. It was one of those things where you're showing the ropes. I don't know how to squat. I didn't know how to do any of these things, and that trainer really helped me with that.
Yep.
And funny story, years later, we moved up here to Chandler, and there used to be an LA Fitness, which then became a Pure Fitness and now is vacant. But that LA Fitness, that's where my first gym membership was up here. So I'm working out one day, and this guy comes up to me and says, Josh? I said, Brad? And this is my personal trainer from Safford, Arizona.
Oh, that's funny.
And for those of you who don't know what Safford is, it's a very small town. So to be in a big city and my personal training to be at now the same gym, it was very, very weird. What's fascinating about it was when we had our first call and just your approach, kind of what I was looking to get out of it, where I was at physically, and just understanding what my needs were. And my needs were pretty simple. I wanted more energy, and you asked me if I was open to some adjustments to my workouts, because I sent you the spreadsheet because I track everything, everything. And you're like, are you open to some changes? I'm like, of course. So you've redone like my workout program. I think just finished week 2, and I haven't followed exactly because I haven't really taken but one rest day.
Yeah.
So I've kind of like cycled, but they're amazing. It's cool because you told me that we were going to work on some muscles that were like some of the smaller muscles and the stabilizer rather than a lot of the heavy pushes that I was doing.
Yep.
There's still that incorporated.
Yeah.
And I've noticed it. And then some of like the 10-10-10 drop sets, and then the 90-second. I'm like, gosh, my biceps, I haven't had that kind of soreness in my biceps in years. And I've done some heavier weights before. So I say all that to say it opened my eyes to like, wow, there's a lot more that I can learn by having someone like you that can coach me. And even in the food, and we'll get into that. You were talking about how carbohydrates could benefit me, because I've been on not exactly a ketogenic diet, but a very low carb diet for a long, long time, and it served me well, But you're like, might want to incorporate it at this time before your workout, maybe a little after, even maybe a little bit before bed, and you gave me some exact things to eat. So it's been very helpful. So I appreciate that.
Good.
And if you guys honestly are looking for someone that can guide you based on what your results and what you're looking to get, I mean, Ben's the guy, because I've also looked at some of the results and stuff you've had on your website. But with that, tell me a little bit about how you got started in, this role now? Because you didn't start just in, coaching people in fitness and stuff. So where did it all start?
No, I mean, it's been, and I'm glad, by the way, I'm glad that you're experiencing benefits from the program. And I think, we'll touch on this later, I'm sure, but I think it's just so important for people to acknowledge, like, we just don't know what we don't know.
Right.
And it doesn't mean that what you're doing isn't right, because obviously you're in great shape and you've overcome a tremendous amount, and generally, you're in great physical health and improving. But I think that there's always an opportunity for people to, get some light shined on their blind spots.
Absolutely.
Right? And having a professional, we do this, like, it's why you have a financial advisor, and it's why you hire people who know more than you in other areas, is to do just that.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's always opportunity for improvement, and that's always been my philosophy. And I think from a young age, I was always interested in health and fitness. We were talking about growing up in the 80s, and it was sort of like, the bodybuilding era, and Arnold Schwarzenegger and Jean-Claude Van Damme and Sylvester Stallone and all these models of health and fitness. And as a, young kid, like, who didn't want to be jacked?
Absolutely.
And,
Hulk Hogan was my guy.
100%. And wrestlers and me too. And like, we used to, I was an idolized Arnold Schwarzenegger and all these movies. And so I was always into, to a degree, health and fitness. And I always kind of exercised. Starting when I was like 14 or 15 years old, I would, start going to the gym. Growing up, my dad would drag me to the gym at like 4 or 5 in the morning before school, and I would just goof around on the equipment and figure stuff out. But through a couple things, like an injury, I tore my ACL my junior year of high school, first football scrimmage of the year, and by virtue of going through the rehab process, was really enlightened into like how nuanced physical fitness was, and just how interested I was in it. And then coupled with the fact that I struggled with a lot of digestive issues when I was 16, 17, 18, and trying to figure that out on my own, because kind of conventional medicine approach wasn't helping, between all of the antacid medications and procedures like the endoscopy, where they put the video down your throat to look at your stomach lining, and they're like, yeah, it's super inflamed, but we don't know why.
Yep.
And there's really not much we can do. And so kind of like being proactive about it is like, well, what do I need to do to figure this out? And started to realize very quickly, like, the nutrition and what I was eating and what I was drinking was impacting how I was feeling, how I was performing. And so it just became something that I really wanted to pursue, really wanted to study, mostly to just figure out my own stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, how can I feel better? And being an athlete, I played football my freshman year of college at a small D3 school, and then I transferred to University of Arizona here down in Tucson, and I played rugby for U of A and was very serious about it, and we were very good. And I knew to perform my best, like, I had to continue, like, aside from, I mean, I was a rugby player, we were partying plenty.
Yeah, oh yeah,
right?
Yeah, that's right.
But
you guys can go beer to beer for anybody. I know some rugby players.
Yeah, we could party. But with that said, I took my academics very seriously towards the end of my college career. I took my fitness very seriously because I wanted to earn a starting role on the team, and because I really respected my coach, and I needed, like a mentor at that stage of my life. So it was really serendipitous. And then it also gave me kind of the momentum to like go to grad school to study exercise and wellness and study sport performance. And that just really evolved through my master's degree in exercise and wellness. I ended up going back to school, got another master's degree in clinical nutrition, because I just realized, like, once I started working with clients in the real world, like, the fitness is great, but if we're truly going to change physique, if we're going to change health, and by virtue of like just peeling back the layers of the onion, of figuring out my own stuff of gut health and the impact of gut health and supplementation and food quality and nutrient values, started to realize, like, everything's connected, right? We have all of these body systems that are synergistic and symbiotic, and we have to look at the body as this whole entity to the degree that that became part of my practice with clients, because I was able to, heal myself through nutritional interventions, through supplementation, through lifestyle, and wanted to be able to share that wisdom with other people. Hence my company, Body Systems, and now being in a position where we help walk people through this sort of holistic approach to health and fitness and wellness.
That's awesome. Going back to when they did the endoscopy, is that what they call it? Yeah. And you're meeting with these doctors. Did they really ever say, "Hey, what's your diet like? What do you eat?"
Never. Never.
It's always very interesting to me because I've done more time in a hospital than most prisoners do in a penitentiary, and they never once really cared about my diet. They never asked anything about that. And even after, like, I was in the hospital and stuff, they put you on what's called a heart healthy diet. Let me tell you what my first breakfast was when I got to Banner University, which was my fourth stop. My first breakfast was 3 pieces of French toast with syrup, a muffin, 1 egg, and an orange juice.
Oh man,
that's heart healthy, and it kind of goes to the root of the problem we're seeing in the country right now. Is like that should be the first thing you ask. So, we have a mobile IV therapy company, but my medical director, Dr. Jess, she's a naturopath. She's phenomenal, and she's like done all my blood work and stuff. But we can have these kind of conversations like we're having with you. What's my nutrition need to look like? What am I really deficient in? What do I need to be eating more of? And those types of things. So on that topic, I don't know where, this isn't a political thing, but RFK now is coming into a new role and is going to hopefully really make some changes. What would you like to see in the American diet changed to see a bigger impact on health?
Yeah, that's a great question. And at the end of the day, there just needs to be more awareness and ownership over the foods that we consume. Mm-hmm. And I think that there's just this massive over-reliance on the government and dietary regulations being in our best interest. And we know very clearly, like, there's nothing about the U.S. dietary regulations that are serving us well. Mm-hmm. We're fatter and sicker than we've ever been before. And so it really begs, like, one, that there's more, there's more awareness of like, what do people need to know about their food? Like, yeah, it's great. Like, we're bringing to light the dyes and how processed food is, and, the unhealthy fats that are, food that's part of our food system, and how that contributes to long-term health. And then similarly there has to be this educational awareness around, like, people taking ownership over what it is that they're putting in their mouth, and acknowledging, like, at the end of the day, you're the one that's in control of what you consume. Yeah. And so it's, people do more research on the next car that they're buying or the next iPhone, you name it, versus what they're putting in their mouth. Yeah. And they think just because it's on the shelf, it's okay, and clearly it's not. And even our hospital system, I mean, it's...
Yeah. Well, and you can go to the grocery store, right, and you can walk down the cereal aisle, it's a good example, and you can just pull out a box of cereal, and you can look on there, and it's got 25, 30 different ingredients for something that should be very, very simple. Yeah. And half of them are hard to pronounce, and you don't know what most of them are. Right. And, like, there's a problem there. Like, there's an issue when the nutrition labels that were made mandatory, I want to say it was the late 90s, might have been the 2000s, but they were made mandatory to have on everything. Yet, you don't know what these things are. It's just like a label, and people don't look past it. It's kind of like when you go car shopping and you see that sticker that's got all of these different things about the car. Most people don't read about them. They just, ooh, it's pretty, it's shiny. Yeah. What does it cost? And well, they don't realize really what they're getting out of it.
If you're relying on food labels to help you make good dietary decisions, then we're just thinking about it the wrong way, because real food doesn't have labels.
That's a good point. That's a really
Because
good point.
it's, if we're shopping the perimeter of the grocery store, what are we consuming? We're consuming fruits, we're consuming vegetables, we're consuming protein sources,
Yeah.
we're consuming dairy. We can throw in some whole grains in there, but if we're looking at all of the labeled foods, the cereals and the pastas and the highly refined foods that have a stable shelf life for years and years,
Yeah.
that's stuff that's not ideal for our body.
Yeah, you mean Velveeta's not good for you?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And it's like that's a good point. I mean, I never really thought about it like that, the perimeter of a grocery store. But if that's where you ate, you would be healthier than most people just by sticking to the perimeter, right? Because now you're not doing it, nothing really is boxed. Nothing has things that have sustained over time. I mean, these aren't what our ancestors ate. These aren't even what our great grandparents ate, right? This stuff didn't really exist then.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and I try not to be too polarizing about this stuff, Josh, because
let's be polarizing.
I just think it's really important, though, that we meet people where they are. And so it's like to take, and by the way, part of our coaching is when I first started to heal my gut, I was very dogmatic. It's like, you will not eat gluten, you will not eat dairy, you will not eat sugar. Here's your supplement regimen. This is the requisite.
Yeah.
To work with me, this is what is necessary for you to heal and to perform well, and it was sort of like, this is all I knew because this is what worked for me.
Yeah.
And I think that there's certainly a time and a place for that. But now, some 20 years later, having worked with hundreds, if not thousands of people, I think that it's sort of like, where's a good starting point and where's a good stepping stone to just simply understand. It's like, listen, the gold standard is that we're eating whole, real foods, plain and simple. But it's nuanced, right? With our busy lifestyles and careers and families and food access now, it's just a very different world than where our grandparents were and what they had access to and what was justified and socially acceptable and all of that stuff. And that's fine. So it's okay, to be polarizing to the degree that let's all agree that we'd all be better off on a whole foods diet. Yeah. And as long as we're working towards that, that is what I would encourage people to think about, and not just to justify, well, I'm eating cereal and it says it's whole grain and it says it has quote unquote fiber and it says, it's heart healthy and it's gluten-free bullshit. Okay, but really, is this the best decision that you can be making? And ultimately, how's it serving us long run?
Yeah. No, I mean, that's a great point. I mean, in general in life, you can meet people kind of where they're at.
Yeah.
You can generally have conversations that can move them 5%, 10%. But it's like, you're right. If you're so polarizing and so dogmatic, can turn a lot of people off, especially with food. Food's, the one thing everybody has in common is we have, several things, but one, we all eat. We have to eat to survive. So some people live to eat and some people eat to live, right? And a majority of Americans are in that live to eat space. So when you tell them that, hey, you know what? Yeah, you can have that donut. That's like a one time a week type of thing. You can have a cheat meal. And like, what? I mean, what do you mean I can't have those nachos on the happy hour menu 3 times a week and a couple of beers with it? If you tell them that right off the bat, but it's one change. If you can make one change, okay, great. And they start feeling a little better after that one change. And then it's, okay, you might want to think about this. So you're right. It allows you to start leading people down a healthier lifestyle by getting one change right, seeing a difference. But if it's just, let's eat the whole elephant at once, nobody wants to do that.
One of the things that I have our clients consider is just simply creating more awareness. And it's probably not dissimilar to what you do with clients around finances.
Yeah.
And it's just simply getting a better understanding of what's coming in and what's going out, to the degree that just by doing that, people can make more concerted decisions around what they want to have versus, you know, what they feel like they don't need. And I think that there's this, with what we know about human psychology, is such that like it doesn't work to tell people what they need to do.
Right.
Like if I tell you, for most people, don't eat that donut, you can't have beer, you can't have nachos. For most people, they might be like, oh, okay, I understand why, and I might be compliant for a week or two or whatever. But then, but there's this resistance going on to the degree that you tell me I can't have something, and I'm like a rebel personality, right? And so you tell me I can't have something, F off, man. That's that's something I'm gonna want even more, just to spite you. Just ask my parents. But therein is like the opportunity, because when we have autonomy over something and we're empowered to make decisions for ourselves, that's when the real magic happens, to the degree that you get to decide whether or not you have a donut, how many donuts you have, how it fits within the total budget. And that way we can work together over a period of time to really put some guardrails in place. As one of my clients says, he says, learn to live between the ditches. And right? And it's kind of like, listen, man, again, our world is very different now than it was 100 years ago, to the degree that I believe we all need to have this level of flexibility and freedom that just comes, like you got young kids, I've got young kids, and you've got to be malleable. You never know like where you're going to be, what's going to pop up, and you might have a plan in place which is perfect for you, but what happens when you get stuck at the airport, or the flight is canceled, or you know, the kids' sports go over and then they're hungry, and then you go through drive-through and you're starving. It's like, this is stuff that you're just not going to be able to control for at all hours.
Well, that's exactly it. And I've never really thought about this, but there's so many parallels to nutrition and finances.
Very much.
And when you look at it from that frame and you go, one of the things I have people do is show me your statements, right? Show me where you're spending your money. And if they've got any sort of credit card debt, awesome, great, no problem. Let's look at it.
Yeah.
And then they see it. And it's when people see what they're doing, I don't have to say anything.
That's right.
Right? Because numbers scream, words speak, numbers scream. So if I put that in front of them, I'm like, okay, what do you see here? What do you think you can make some adjustments in? Oh, well, this, and this. But let's say they're further down the road, right? They don't have any credit card debt. They've been saving a little bit, and say, okay, great. What's your income? What's your net? What are you paying in taxes? Cool. Here's what we have. These are the different buckets for retirement. Could we take a little bit more here to fill this bucket up, or this bucket? Well, yeah, I think we could do that. But if I said don't have that donut, or hey, don't take that vacation with your family, okay, well, no, they're growing, they only grow up once. I hear that all the time. I got it, I got kids. We've taken road trips across the country all different ways and spent tens of thousands of dollars on it. Is that the most pragmatic? Would Dave Ramsey say do that?
Right.
God, no, he wouldn't. He would be like, what are you doing? So you got to be able to eat that donut, just like sometimes you got to take that vacation. You got to get that little extra thing, but it's got to be a treat. It can't be a lifestyle.
Yeah, and that's where, you know, we look, if we're making the analogy, I mean, it's, you know, what can we invest our time, energy, and money into around health and fitness that's going to create the most significant compounding interest. And that's where we really just focus on, like, listen, forget about the donut, forget about the nachos. It's like, what are we doing every single day consistently that we can double down on that's going to compound over time? Is okay, just overall managing our calorie intake, moving our body frequently enough. Are we strength training and supporting some lean muscle tissue? Are we getting enough quality sleep at the right time? Are we eating enough protein? You know, and then of course looking at food quality and how are we getting enough micronutrition, vitamins and minerals, and so it's almost giving people the opportunity to like zone out of all of the this is good and this is bad and the biohacking BS and like right, like all of the things that people get obsessed with, that's missing the forest for the trees.
Yeah.
And instead it's like just the daily fundamentals that if you're investing your time and energy into are going to pay dividends long term.
Yep.
And I think that's very refreshing for people, because when we look at the social media landscape and even just the media landscape in general, everything highlights all of these very polarizing aspects of like what we think we should be doing that are so, at the end of the day, seemingly insignificant. The intermittent fasting and again, there's nothing wrong with any of this stuff,
Right.
but it's so far down the totem pole than what these big needle movers are.
Yeah, well, and it puts you in a box. Okay, this is exactly how I have to do things. If I do things this way, it's not going to work. I'm going to intermittent fast for 18 hours. I'm going to eat for 6, right? Or I'm going to go the ketogenic diet. This is exactly how I have to live my life. But then, like, to your point, you're out, you're doing something, you're with the family, some of those things aren't in place for you, and you got to make an adjustment, and you like feel bad about yourself. Well,
yeah,
that shouldn't be the way. It should be a game
Right.
plan. Like in, football. If you're playing football, what do you have? You have a game plan. You don't have just a game plan for, hey, we're getting a first down every time. No, you got a game plan for 2nd and 6, 3rd and 4.
Right.
You got hey, 1st and goal, 3 to go. You have a game plan for those specific plays. So you got to have a full game plan mapped out for every situation. And that's where coaching comes in, right? Helping have that well-rounded game plan to where you don't have to feel guilty if you're out there doing something, or maybe you miss a workout, right? So we've been talking about nutrition, but maybe you miss a workout. I am not the right person to talk about that. I worked out 1,200 days in a row. In fact, you can see it on my sheet. You're actually the only person that has access to that. And it's stupid. Nobody should ever do that. But what happened was, I got to 30 days. I'm like, oh, this would be cool. Maybe I can get another 30 days. And then it was another 30 days. Didn't miss any. And it wasn't like I did cardio days. There were no cardio days. It was all like workouts.
Yeah.
And then I got to, maybe I can get to 100 days. I'm at 60 now. I got to 100 days. I'm like, oh, okay, great. Maybe I can get to 200 days and 3. And then it stacked. And then it ended actually it was just over 1,100. I didn't make it to 12. It was 1,100 because I went to the hospital with heart failure the first time in 2022.
See what happens when you exercise that much?
Right, exactly. Don't do that. Yeah, eat more donuts. No,
That's right.
Right, more rest days. But I was dogmatic about it. I was so obsessed. I became obsessive about it because I'm like, to give you an example, it's probably the worst example ever, but I was at a golf tournament. I was with one of my buddy, Earl. He had brought me to this golf tournament. It was with Ricky, and it was at Rancho Manana.
Yeah.
Okay, we're having fun, getting ready to go play. So we're on the second hole, and I hit my ball way left, and it's up on this hill. So I go up, and I drive up on the hill, but there's still dew, and my cart slid. Toppled over on top of me. I still got a scar to this day.
Oh, wow.
But busted up. It literally pinned my leg, pinned my arm. I didn't know if I'd broken anything. Earl's this big old guy. He should have been in the military. Probably still has more guns than everybody in the military. Ricky, who could fit on a charm bracelet. They come running, like trying to help me. Earl, who deadlifts 600 for reps, picks up the golf cart on me. And I'm freaking out. Adrenaline's going.
Yeah.
There's people that saw all this happen. We're on hole 2, by the way, in the tournament. So I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. I could, my foot was hurting, but I'm like, I'm going to do it. So he goes, he field dresses me. He's got field dressings in his golf bag.
Amazing.
Anyway, so I'm all wrapped up, bandaged. I finished the 18. And then I go to the VFW because this was like supporting them. And I had, we'll just say, a couple drinks. Maybe more than a couple. But I hadn't worked out that day. So I stopped at a Walgreens on the way because I now had to replace my bandage. I got the bandage, I replaced it, and I went to the gym, half in the bag because I was trying to pain management, which, again, stupid.
Yeah,
All this
sure.
is stupid. And I worked out for a full hour. I did chest that day, and I remember I just had to get it in. That's how dogmatic I was.
Yeah.
That's not healthy. It's not good. But
You're committed.
Yeah, committed for sure. And it has paid off in certain parts of my life, being like that. But going back to what we're talking about, you got to have a game plan that has flexibility. You never know on the game field when you're going to throw an interception. Well, what do? Do you roll over and pee on yourself? No. Boom, defense goes out there. Where are we at? Game plan. You have to have things in place.
I think I like the analogy around the football and the game plan, and one of the things we talk about is film review. And its understanding is like there's no one right thing. And if we can acknowledge that, there's just a series of behaviors that we're going to have to develop, right? And skills that we're going to have to develop over time that are going to lead us and put us in positions where we're going to be able to make better decisions consistently, to the degree that it's like, what do we do under these circumstances, right? It's 3rd and 2. Are we going to run? Are we going to pass? Yep. Right? What's the defense show? And so now we can make an executive decision based on previous experiences and based on understanding the way we've performed in the past, what are our assets, right? And it's a perfect analogy to the degree that what we help clients through is identifying and leveraging game film to learn, right? And so when we review previous week's data, when we look at how we performed in terms of where were calories, where was protein, what happened on the scale, where are circumference measurements, and then subjectively, like, how do I feel? My hunger, my energy, my cravings, my mood, my digestion, my cognitive function. Then we have all of the data to be able to make informed decisions around what's working well, where do we need to pivot and adjust, and then what it's going to look like for us under the next set of circumstances, right? So now we've got, as an example, with the time that we're recording this, we've got Thanksgiving coming up, and a lot of the conversations that we're having with clients are relegated to what do you want to have happen, right? Like, what do you want to see in terms of scale weight or body composition change over the next 6 weeks with the holidays coming up? How have you performed in the past? What's worked well? What have you struggled with? What are the circumstances that have been challenging for you? What are the circumstances that you're going to find yourself in? What are the conversations that you're going to be having? Who's the pain in the ass family member who's going to be pushing alcohol and junk food down your throat? How are you going to navigate that situation? And so it's all rooted in so much more behavior-based awareness than just eat this, don't eat this. It doesn't work for humans.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's a really good point. And with Thanksgiving coming up, there are all these little nuances that happen. And going back to the behavior of somebody is a big thing, because the past is the easiest thing to look at, right?
Yeah.
The rear view mirror, you shouldn't look all the time, but sometimes it's your best indicator of how you can move forward and identifying how you can do better, right? That's why they watch Game Field after a game.
That's right.
So I want to pivot a little bit because I don't want to miss this part. You've been an entrepreneur for a long time. How long have you been self-employed?
I've been self-employed since basically 2007, and I don't know if I'd consider myself an entrepreneur. I mean, I've had a couple little businesses. I run a small business, so we've got a small team, however you want to frame it. But I consider myself basically unemployable.
Perfect. Well, you're a business owner, right?
Yeah.
Whether you call it an entrepreneur, which, by the way, I hate the word, can't stand it. So many people put that out there, and so I can agree with that. But you're a small business owner, right?
For
you don't
sure.
work for someone else. At the end of the day, the money you bring in, you eat what you kill. You have to put food on other people's table, and all that. What's that journey been like? When you decided you were going to go on your own, was it easy right away? Have there been times where it's like, maybe I do go back and work for somebody, or what's that journey been like?
It's been easily the greatest and hardest learning opportunity that I think anyone could ever experience. And, I mean, I don't know, are you really a small business owner if you don't question what the hell it is you're doing every single day and consider the alternative, right? And I'd be lying if I didn't consider, often what it might look like to go back and work for someone. But like I said, it's not even really an option.
Yeah. And
so it's been a very steep learning curve. It's been incredibly challenging. And I think because it came I wasn't necessarily, I don't know if are you ever really equipped to be an entrepreneur, to be a small business owner, right?
No, you kind of put on that armor as you go down the path.
Yeah, 100%. And so what, I work 16-hour days, so I don't have to work 8-hour days.
Yeah.
It's like, but things came easy early on around like my personal training business. I just was at the right place at the right time, and I grew, like my business grew very quickly, but also I didn't have any responsibilities. I was like 25, 26 years old, fresh out of grad school, building a personal training business. My wife had a good job, and, we were carefree, and not acknowledging how challenging that things might be down the road around once we decide to get married, once we decide to start a family, saving for the future, investing in the future, and then what things look like with kids. And so again, it's been a very steep learning curve and been very, very challenging. I can't say I would necessarily do anything differently because of how I've grown personally and professionally because of it. I'm very grateful for the opportunity that I think not a lot of people can relate to, which kind of as small business owners, entrepreneurs, it puts us on this almost what feels like a deserted island sometime, because the conversations that we have together are very different than the conversations that you would have with someone who works a regular 9 to 5. It's just, I think most people just can't comprehend the amount of stress and effort and just nonstop dedication that goes into learning how to run a profitable / successful business.
Right, and growing it, because no business, you're either growing or you're not, and it's true. And it's funny, one of the nuances I found myself in, because I had my own company, sold it for 15 years, but I was still an owner of the company that bought us and the COO and all that. And I want to get that away from the industry. But what attracted me to this was, okay, great. I'm still a business owner. They made me a partner. I'm like, okay, this is amazing. Awesome. However, most of the people I work with have like jobs, like full-time jobs. They work for big corporations, and like I'm giving them advice on retirement planning. We're making sure they have all the things in place and stuff. And I see the types of money that they have saved and what their employees offer. And it is a much more comfortable life than most of the people that I know in the realm of business ownership. Yet most of them don't necessarily like what they do every day. And I'll ask you, do you like what you do every day?
I love what I do. And that's the thing that keeps me coming back and continuing to do it, because I have had plenty of opportunities to join corporate America in some way, shape, or form, still being in quote unquote health in some capacity. But at the end of the day, coaching individuals and seeing the types of transformations that we create, and it's not just like physique transformations, these are life changes for people. It makes all of those challenges worthwhile. And you're absolutely right in terms of this level of comfort. It's constantly living in discomfort that you really have to embrace, and this invariable level of risk that you're taking all of the time. At least that's my experience. Again, being a small business owner, it's me and my wife. We have a couple coaches. We have an independent contractor team of individuals. So it is what it is. That's my experience of it, but it gets you much more comfortable with not being averse to risk. And I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
I think it's a good thing, and really being okay embracing challenges. And I think just, if we kind of look at that globally, I think more people need to put themselves in positions to feel challenged in some way, shape, or form, whether it's financially challenged, like how can I challenge myself to invest more, to save more, so that we can grow more, to physically, challenge themselves more so that they can grow more, to commit to more, whether it's around their nutrition, around their lifestyle, so that they can make improvements. And so I'm very grateful for the opportunity.
When it comes down to being an entrepreneur, one of the questions I wanted to ask you, was there a time in that journey where something happened and you were like, oh, it was a turning point. Like, I know I can do this now. Was there one thing that happened? And I'll give you an example, as to give you some time to think. So when I was at Aftershock, this was in 2014, so I'd had the business 6 years at this point in time. And I just started working with attorneys and doing pay-per-click marketing, which I'd done for a lot of companies, but specifically now I'd worked with a couple of attorneys, and things were lean. Everybody else that worked for me was doing better than me at this point in time, and I was just working my butt off. My wife saw that, and but we weren't able to afford a lot of the things certainly that we do now. But it was right around Christmas time, and I get a check in the mail, and it was from a gentleman named Brian. He was one of the attorneys, and it was an envelope, and the envelope in it had a letter. It said, "Thank you so much. I appreciate everything you do," and it had a $500 bonus. I got a bonus from a client that wasn't in our contract, nothing. I mean, he paid me monthly, all this stuff. And it was one of those things that resonated in my heart, like, what I'm doing is actually helping business owners. And, oh my God, I know I can do this now. And from that point on, actually, I went on to run millions of dollars and ad spend and all that. And attorneys is kind of the direction I took things. But that was a turning point for me. Did you ever have anything like that?
Yeah, in a little different context, but we were talking about just the proverbial struggles that we experience over time, and there was definitely a juncture years ago, probably about 10 years ago, where I was just grinding away, and I had just finished my second master's degree in clinical nutrition. My oldest daughter was in kindergarten. My middle daughter, she was 3 or 4. And my wife had stopped working after my second daughter. And we would have a son. We didn't yet have him. But that was one of those times where I was working my ass off. We were struggling financially. Wasn't seeing a lot of clients' results, and I was really kind of questioning like how I was coaching clients, the methodology we were using, sort of the dogma in the industry around nutrition and fitness and the way I was employing those, and really questioning like, what is it that I'm doing? And I literally it was the middle of the night. Couldn't sleep. I've had a lot of those. I'm sure you have as well. Yeah. And I was online. I was looking at jobs on, I don't know, some job platform for like pharmaceutical sales rep jobs or some shit like that. Yeah. And we went into my email box, and we were tasked. I got an email from my daughter's kindergarten teacher, and the assignment to the parents was to write a letter to our kids, to our kindergartners, for when they turn 18, for when they graduate high school, around, what you want for them and whatever, just, where you are, right? Like, here's where you are now. And as I started, and so I was like, it's 2, 3 in the morning and I'm awake. And so I was like, well, I might as well knock it out right now. And I started writing this letter of talking to my daughter Zoe around, here's what I want for you. Here's what I'm trying to create for you. And, I want you to be proud of me, blah, blah, blah. And I realized it's like my responsibility to commit and to decide in this moment that there's no alternative.
Burn the ships.
100%. That I need to figure it out, right? And I'll figure it out from here because I love what I do. I'm good at what I do. And, I want my kids to be proud of me, and I want to set the example for them that they can do whatever they want. And who would I be if in that moment I decided to quit on my goals, on my hopes and dreams, if everything that I had worked so hard for, over all of those years. We're still grinding away. Here we are 10 years later.
It's awesome, man. That's so powerful, and I can relate on a lot of levels. I never wrote a letter. That's a cool idea, though, to write a letter, to your kids and stuff, because mine now are 14, 12, and 7. But on that note, it's like one of the things that was the most exciting of me, going to heart transplant, surviving death and all that, but then deciding to do something completely different is my kids get to see it this time.
Yeah.
They didn't see that I had a successful company and all the struggles that happened in a 15-year period. They were super young. You hide those things. But now they get to see it. They get to see me start something in a brand new field and succeed right in front of them. And they get to see the hard work. They see my wife. She has a company that she's grown literally from absolute nothing to she's going to do some really significant revenue this year. It's amazing. It's amazing for them to watch that.
Yeah.
So like having your kids, because I think it's Ed Milet that I heard it from. I don't know if he initially said it, but he always says things are caught, not taught.
Yeah.
And your kids catch these things. They see these things. And my kids are always like, oh, hey, how can we make, some extra money, and let's do this, and Dad, can we save? Like, they understand about different things that I do, but it's like, ooh, Mom's, created a product. She's repackaged. She's building a brand. They're starting to get these things. And that letter to your will be 18 eventually, when they were in kindergarten, it's like, now you get to live that journey of they're going to catch all these things that I'm doing to pursue my dreams. And that's what most parents, I think, need to really understand is if they're pursuing their dreams, their kids will see to pursue theirs. If they give up and they settle, and I'm not saying you have to be an entrepreneur or a business owner.
Totally.
You can be in corporate America, just pursue your dream of what you want to do and accomplish. And that's the best thing you can ever do for your kids.
Yeah.
Obviously love them, but show them that you're out there trying to make a change in the world the way, you're best fit to do it as well.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't possibly agree more. And that's the conversation that we have with so many clients around what this journey truly is about, right? And it's like, listen, we all want to look good with our shirt off, but more importantly is we want to feel good, we want to show up, we want to have energy, we want to be present, physically, mentally, emotionally, for our family, for our community, for the people that care about us, and we need to be present in order to be able to give what we want to give. So many of us give everything and we don't save anything for ourselves. We give everything to our career, we give everything to our family members, and we literally are sucking the life out of us, and we're not going to be useful after a period of time. And so I think what's so important in the conversations that we have with clients is just helping them realize how good you could feel and how much more you could give if you were to actually prioritize yourself. And to start pouring into yourself, you'll actually be able to set such a better example for your family, for your friends, for your community member, and it's literally going to change the trajectory of your life. I always think about the Back to the Future. Is it Back to the Future 2 where you go back and there's there's two different trajectories, and he went down the wrong trajectory.
So he went forward and then he came back,
and Biff owns the casino and everything's crap, and his dad was murdered and his mom married Biff and she's got all this boob job and everything. It's dude, we don't want
she's
that.
She's a total drunk.
Yeah, that's right. And so it's imagine your life right now, and you have the decision of which timeline you want to go down, and your actions and your behaviors right now are going to dictate what your future looks like, but you have control over that, which is so beautiful, to the degree that it's not that hard to do, but you have to make the commitment and you have to decide. And we've said that word a couple times, by the way, the very definition of decide, CIDE in Latin, is to cut off, is there's no other option. I think if more people committed to actually making a decision of what they want, and then learning and being and putting themselves in uncomfortable positions to learn, that life could look very different in 1, 2, 5, 10 years from now.
Absolutely, absolutely. Before we go, I mean, I want to talk a little bit about your program. And number one, like, who's a good fit? Who should be, looking at your program from a coaching standpoint? Who's your ideal customer, and what can they expect to learn?
Yeah, 100%. We work with a lot of mother, fathers, executives, decision makers, working professionals, people that have committed to oftentimes a career, they've committed to a family, they're dedicated to a lot of factors in their life, and they feel like they've been successful in a lot of areas of their life, but they're missing that one key component around being able to effectively prioritize themselves. And maybe they've tried a number of different diets, but again, they haven't figured it out. They haven't figured out the formula for themselves. And so it's someone who's driven to make change. They're committed to making change in their life. They're not opposed to hard work and being challenged and embracing what it feels like to be coached, right? And to the degree that they're willing to develop the tools and skills to make those long-term changes. And then from there is really just giving them the opportunity to kind of commit to 6, 12 plus months of going down this road together, of identifying, here's where you are now, okay? The good, the bad, and the ugly. Here's where you want to go. And let's understand that literally your identity is going to need to change throughout this process. And that's a good thing, right? It's scary for a lot of people, but it's also understanding it's like my behaviors are going to look different. The people that I surround myself are going to look different. The commitments that I'm going to make are going to look different. And giving them the opportunity to kind of develop those skills and tools is what the coaching process actually looks like.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, I know for me, what I've kind of observed from the outside looking in, it's like you take those people that are successful, that haven't prioritized their health, and basically you just kind of help them unlock what is going to now open that new door for health for them, and understanding that not only is it important, but here's how you can do it successfully and have this for the rest of your life. Because when people make these changes, one thing I don't think a lot of people resonate with, and if you don't have kids, I get it, that's fine. But if you have kids, this is generational. Yeah. Like, my kids see how I eat, they see how I work out, they see how my wife eats, how she works out, and they're just naturally gravitating towards eating better things. Now, they still eat absolute crap sometimes, and it drives me a little batty. Yeah. But we have our negotiation with the kids. But they see that, and they know what it's like to live properly from a nutrition and that standpoint, and then also from a financial standpoint. So it's like being able to help the parents that are drivers can affect generations. So you're doing generational work whether you know it or not, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah, I do know that. And, one of the things that we see is, and that I firmly believe, is that learning how to, we talked about the fundamentals of acknowledging that we can move more, that we can prioritize our nutrition, that we can create more awareness around our calorie intake, that we can learn how to effectively strength train, that we can eat higher quality, more nutrient-dense foods. This is a superpower.
Yeah.
Legitimately is a superpower that is going to, like you said, create generational wealth. It's going to separate you from average. And it's because while it's not easy to do, it is simple, right? And it is what very few people are willing to do. But it's not that challenging. But it does take dedicated time, effort, energy, investment into, with financially and with your time, and to the process. But when you start to develop these, you come to the realization of how good you feel, how good you look, what a difference it makes in terms of the way that you show up, like we've been talking about. And I think with a lot of the professionals and decision makers and mother fathers that we work with at this point in their life, they've accomplished a lot, and they always thought that, you know, they've been working so hard from a like materialistic standpoint, which is not bad, but it's like, we've got the house, we've got the car, we've got the kids, we've got the watches and the jewelry and stuff like that. But my life feels very different than what I thought it would feel like. And what we thought success was all of the things that we have, but not necessarily the way that we feel.
Right.
And the biggest, you know, the biggest mindset shift that happens is them acknowledging, I don't need any of this stuff. And then, again, there's nothing wrong with it, but I don't need this stuff because all I want to do is feel better now. You know, I want to have more energy. I want to be able to be present mentally, physically, emotionally for my kids and for my future, most importantly. And so it's this completely different dynamic of what wealth looks like for them. I think that's the hardest thing for people to embrace, especially like in our 40s, where we've just been head down grinding for so long, only to look up and say, I've got everything I ever wanted, but the one thing I don't have is the thing that's most important to me.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and you know, it comes down to, you want to leave a legacy, and legacy is more memories than it is material things, period, to your family. Like, you know, it's actually, I have my little affirmations I say every day, and the last one is every day is a step towards the Norris legacy, right? Because it's going to go way past me. I'm going to die, who knows? Could be tomorrow, could be, you know, 50 years. I'm going to die at some point. My kids are going to carry on, and then they're going to have their families, and they're going to do their thing. And I want the Norris legacy to mean something. So it's not, it'll be wealth, it'll be things, sure, but nobody cares about that. Nobody cares about how many houses you have, nobody cars. They're going to care about the memories. They're going to care about the people you impacted on the earth. Who did you have a conversation with that made a change, and how did you help other people's lives? You know, if you have faith, you know, I'm a Christian. How many people did I actually impact from that standpoint that saw how I lived and thought, maybe there's a different way to approach life, and that sent them on their own journey to discover faith for themselves. These are the things that matter, and that's true legacy. So this is great. Before we wrap up, you know, I'm always interested in a question when I meet super fit people like yourself. Because, you know, you look like you eat perfectly every day and you exercise every day, but everybody has that cheat meal. What is the go-to if you could only eat one thing on the last day of your life? What's that cheat meal?
Honestly, it'd probably be like a steak and a potato. I mean, I make it a point to include plenty of the quote-unquote cheats virtually every day, to the point where, like, you don't need to eliminate those things. I'm a firm believer in that. And again, we go back to psychology. It's like, if you include those things, they never feel like they're off limits.
Right, yeah.
But, you know, I'd rock a steak every single day.
What kind of steak?
Probably I'd go a ribeye, or probably go like a bone-in ribeye.
Okay, bone-in. How do you like it cooked?
Medium rare.
Yes.
There's no
other way.
You don't overcook those things.
Yeah, I call everything else above medium a hockey puck, but medium rare is the way it goes.
I think from just like a sweet standpoint, have you been to Dominic's?
I haven't been to Dominic's, no.
Well, they have these beignets.
Okay.
Do you know what beignets are? They're like deep fried pastries. They're covered in like cinnamon sugar, and then they come with a chocolate and a vanilla dipping sauce.
Okay.
You have a steak, potato, maybe a good glass of wine, and finish the meal with those. That's my dream meal.
I love that. I love that. So Steak 44 is like my place I go, and they've got this crispy shrimp on their appetizer menu. I could eat my body weight in that stuff. It's ridiculous. So, no, man, this is a lot of fun. Thanks for coming on this, and thanks for your coaching and your help, you know, in my personal journey as well. And how can people reach out to you?
Yeah, we're on social at Body Systems Coaching, and our website is bodysystems.com. And we do a free nutritional assessment. So we call it our body systems assessment, where we look at things like, it's just a 2-minute questionnaire, super straightforward, it's totally free. And we look at nutrition, we look at sleep, we look at digestion, we look at lifestyle, we talk about all the body systems, cardiovascular health. And it's just a very simple questionnaire that people can submit, and I'll personally send them back a comprehensive review. And if it's something that they were going to get on a call and talk through, and I can help point them in the right direction, then I'm more than happy to do that. And that's link is on our website.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, guys, thanks for checking this out. Make sure to follow Ben. He's got a lot of great tips on his social for free too. Go to his website, get that assessment. I mean, you got nothing to lose. But appreciate you tuning in. We'll see you next time.